Okay, it looks like we are live, and I'm going to give people a couple minutes to pop in, see if anyone jumps in tonight, and see if I can see comments. Always fun to try to figure out with Facebook. While we are waiting, I'm going to grab my phone so that I have a way to check comments in case it doesn't load. Okay, so I do see some people on my phone, and unfortunately, it looks like I don't have comments on my computer. So I'll just kind of periodically check in the comments. But hi, Natasha. So glad that you joined, and you are not late at all. We are just getting started. Hi, Atina. Hi, Haley. Hi, Roslyn. Thank you. I'm glad you like my glasses. And thank you, Atina. It's my apothecary over here. Got all my goodies in there. All right, so thank you for joining, and let me pull my notes up, and I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, let's see. So today we are going to be talking about our future lives and a little bit about this. So we focus a lot on our past lives. I know a lot of people like doing past life readings, including myself. And we think about past versions of ourselves, like things in the past that maybe we need to work through, even in other lives. And we also dream about what we want in the future. And sometimes those dreams like feel really unattainable. But when we work with our future self, it's kind of a different concept. It's almost like taking this in reverse or on the flip side. And this can, really think about if we're like working with our past selves, and especially with these dreams and things, oftentimes we can feel stuck and like the odds are against us to build the life that we want and achieve the things that we want to do. So I know I like to dream big and I like to think about all these things in my life that I want, and it feels oftentimes like in my day-to-day life that there's no way that I can get there. And sometimes working with my future self really kind of lets me level set and be like, okay, what is it that I really, really need, or what can I do differently to get there? And it's been a really cool practice for me and something that I want to share. So the reality is that time is always going to keep going, and we are going into the future whether we are ready for that or not. So we're going to really talk about the future self today and dive into how it works and what you can do, ways you can work with it, and of course make it like a really magical practice as well. So I have a question for you and would love to see you drop this in the chat. So if you're here right now, please do that. And if you are on the replay, just drop it in the chat too. So have you heard of the concept of a future self? That is the question. Have you heard of this concept before? And if you have, what is it that you know about future selves? And if you haven't, that's fine. You can just say you've never heard of it. So let me pull up my comments. So Haley's not heard of it, Roslyn has not, and they're excited to hear about it, learn more. Thanks, Natasha. I'm glad you like my apothecary cabinet. It was a Facebook marketplace find from the 20s, which my house is from the 20s too, so definitely kind of fun to find pieces to match. And Atina said she hates that she missed the past life reading. Do you mean like just getting one in the past, or did you have one that like made a lot of changes for you? And Natasha is very interested in past lives, future, not so much. Maybe? All right, so let's talk about this a little bit more. And thank you all for answering the question. So what is your future self? So it's kind of obvious to a degree, but it's a version of us in the future. So the future self refers to the person you want to be in the future, and it includes the dreams and goals you have for yourself. So this concept invites you to think about your present self and your future self as separate, yet still connected. And you imagine who you want to be or become, and then with the intention, you take steps and adopt behaviors that bring you closer to yourself. And there's actually been a lot of research about this, and this is actually from an article that I pulled on Forbes, or pulled from Forbes.com. And there was research published in the Social, Psychological, and Personality Science, and they found that people who are connected to their future selves are better able to save for the future, delay gratification, and make more considered decisions that help them live healthier, happier lives, with fewer regrets than those who do it less connected to their future selves. So I think it's pretty cool that this is like a more mainstream concept right now. And that like information that I just shared is really more connected with like the mundane side of things. But even just doing that, like if you're like, hey, who would I be 6 months from now, and working towards those goals, it's proven that it actually works. So that's something to consider as you may or may not do this work. But just on kind of like a mundane side, or maybe like a coaching or even maybe a therapeutical approach, like this is something that is being studied just in society in general. So definitely want to talk more witchy on this, right? Like how can we bring this into our spiritual practice? Like how can we take this to the next level? And there's a lot of ways to think about this. So kind of what I talked about, like with the studying and that article, is really looking more at maybe an upcoming future self. Like if you're looking at a goal, like if you, for instance, were like, hey, I want to save $20,000 to buy a new car. Like, what would that look like? Like, what does the car look like? What does it feel like driving? Like, that kind of thing probably is pretty easy to think about. But what if we pushed it way farther out? What if we thought about this from like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe at the very end of our life? Like, can we figure out how old we are? Like, what that looks like? And we can even go farther. So we can think about us as a spirit, like maybe after we've died. And we can also think of us like as in our future lives, like in a different body, in a different timeline, on a different plane. Like we can go however we want and whatever makes sense in our practice. So I really invite you to explore that and make this like super witchy and make it really connected to your practice. Like you don't even have to be a human if you don't want to. Like what if you were in another form in a future life? So those are maybe some mind-blowing things to think about, and put that on the back burner if it feels like too much. But I just kind of think about that as like your future self being in a completely different reality even. Okay, so it can be very mind-boggling, right? But how can you really work with this? So there's some ways that you can, actually, before I jump on that, one piece of my notes I missed is with the Hermit Tarot card. So that is a really good card that I think envisions a lot of this concept. You have, I probably should have grabbed the card, but didn't think about it right now. But we all know what the tarot looks like, the Hermit. If not, you can pull it up. And we have this like old looking wizard standing at the top of a mountain. And he has a very large wand And in the Rider-Waite, it's actually the largest wand in the deck. You can measure it if you don't believe me. And, he's got this big wand, this big staff, and he has the lantern, he's holding it up, and he's like looking down the cliff, like, okay, do you need some help? Like, let me shine a light. How do I help you get up here? And he's looking backwards. And he's one of the few cards in the tarot who is looking back. Most of them are looking to the right, forward, or behind. And so this card has a really different perspective. And it could be like, maybe he's shining the light for someone else, but oftentimes this card is referred as your future self. So this is a really good way to try to envision maybe what this looks like from a spiritual side. And it can also be an indicator when you're working with your tarot that maybe your future self has a message for you. So that is something to think about on the tarot side. Okay, so now we will jump into ways that your future self, you can work with this in magical workings. So the first one that I think is the most important is through meditation. So you can try to meditate and actually contact your future self. You might be able to get downloads. It really would be the same as any type of meditation that you're doing for like ancestors or spirit guides, but instead you're going to be trying to connect with your future self. And you can use a lot of visualization techniques, and that is what I really recommend is the meditation visualization side. We do have other ways to do this if that's not your jam, but I think both are really important to a lot of magical work, so it takes a long time to build it up, but if you're not there, just keep trying, keep practicing. And through these techniques, you can actually visualize maybe what you look like, maybe at the end of this lifetime, or maybe even trying to visualize what you look like in a different life, in a different plane, like all these other things. So once you have that visualization, you can like sit down in your mind and have a conversation with your future self, which is a super powerful thing to do. And I know we have some other lives. Sarah had done some of these on like world building. So you can build a world, or even, take it smaller scale and build like a scene where you can do this with your future self. So in my practice, I have a garden where I talk to spirits sometimes, and this is a whole world that I've built for myself, and I talk to my future self there. So that's something that I do, and that's a practice that I've been working on for like a few years to keep building. So it was definitely not something I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and then have it the next day. But that's an example of like a place that you could have. It could be a place that is unique to you, or like could be your childhood bedroom. It could be your current home. It could be like just favorite places that you've had that are really important to you, because if it's important to you now or in the past, it's still going to be important to you in your future self. So ultimately, through the meditation and visualization, you are getting to know who your future self is, and really trying to see what they have to say. So the next way that you can do this is through journaling and various like prompts, like questions and answers. So of course you can journal. If you're able to channel, then you can basically download information from your future self. Another way to try to do this is like write questions down, and then maybe at another time when you feel tapped into your future self, you can take those questions and answer them. And then maybe read them in another place. So putting some time within this so that you can come back from different times when you're maybe feeling more lost. You can write the questions as your current self, and then maybe in a couple of days or even in a few hours, if you're feeling better, then you can write from your your future self perspective, like really trying to tap into that energy on who you want to become. You can also do this with letters. I know a lot of us like letter writing. That's how we all came together with Woe and with the Witch's Owl Exchange. And so, you can write a letter to yourself, and you can reply back and build up like a chain of letters that you have from yourself and your future self. Shadow work is another really great area to work with your future self. You can call on your future self just like you would any guide, and have basically you help yourself through the hard times and provide answers from a new perspective, one that is much wiser and has already been through this. And having that new perspective can be really helpful. And if you are like afraid of who you will become in the future, this can actually be even more powerful. But I would caution, like, if you're having a lot of like really difficult thoughts around this, you might want to have like professional help as well. But know that this is a really powerful way to kind of work through those fears of, of who you'll be in the future. And you can actually show up as your future self, like within the context of those fears, to really work on unlocking things in a different way. One of my favorite ways to do this is through tarot or oracle readings. So just like you would do like a past life reading, you would do a future life reading. So you can pull cards on like what the future has to say, or you can use like downloading a message like you would if you were using your cards for channeling, then you would basically like channel the message from your future self. Both are super powerful, and I definitely encourage you to explore doing that if you like reading tarot or oracle. And for that matter, I mean, you could do, Ouija or pendulum or really anything. Like any type of tool like that would help. Sorry, I've been having awful allergies for like weeks, so just bear with me. I should say my whole life I've been having them, but it is flared up right now. So another really powerful way is to channel your future self. So this is one that if you've never done any channeling, I wouldn't expect that you would be able to do this for the first time. I think that channeling is quite a gift if that's something that comes easy to you. But I do think that people can definitely work towards it. And channeling your future self is probably a good one to start with, because you don't really have to worry so much about like an entity or some kind of spirit or something sticking to you, because it is you. So it's I think a safer one in a lot of ways. I'm sure there's arguments that can be made otherwise, but from my opinion, I think that it is a safer way to kind of work on these things, because it is really just the same essence, so that you can connect with yourself on there. And you might find it easier to channel yourself than like a different type of being anyway. So it can be a really good place to start with. And on the same note, you can also do aspecting. So aspecting is like really embodying and inviting that to come in. So if you are working with like angels or demons or other spirits that you're like calling in, or even a deity, to aspect like in your mind or even in your body, you can do that same thing with your future self. And again, I would argue that this is probably like a safer one that you can do. And I would also put a caveat in here that if you are unfamiliar with aspecting, that is something you should really get familiar with before you attempt to do something like that. So do your research. That's a different live, but do your research, like really understand aspecting before you jump into something like that. And I would say like an easy one that you can do, which I wouldn't personally worry about, is called identity shifting. So that is one where it's almost like you're acting in that one. You're not really invoking and bringing something into you, but you're just almost like pretending or acting. So you can do that through the shifting, identity shifting techniques. So those are really almost like you're playing pretend, but you would just be like, okay, I'm going to think about who I am at the end of my life. I'm going to think about who I am, 30 years from now, and I'm going to try to like act that out and be that, even if it's just for a moment. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if I was going to be doing like if maybe I was going to give a speech and I was super nervous about public speaking, and it was like something that I had like a really important thing that I needed to do, and I was really nervous about it, I could try to aspect identity shift and envision who I was like 20 years in the future, like more confident, and that this had been something I've done a bunch, and then really try to embody that version in that moment. So that is a lot different than really calling something or yourself in to take over. It's really just more like you're pretending that you're in that space. So it does change like the way that your brain thinks. I hope that makes sense. I know it sounds very similar, but the aspecting is really truly giving up your autonomy in those moments a lot more than just like an identity shift. Okay, so another way that you can do this is through mirror work. So just like these other things where you maybe like meditate and have a conversation or doing the identity shifting, you can actually do this in a mirror. This is a really cool way. I mean, even just looking, even meditating and just looking at yourself in the mirror, you may be able to visualize yourself becoming old just by thinking about that and looking at the mirror for a more extended period of time. Wouldn't want to do this maybe for that long, but even I would say 5 minutes, you might be able to really see yourself in a different way. And, you can try to have a conversation with yourself as well and see what see what you have to say from a different perspective, and see if you're able to do that visualization as you are looking at yourself. That can be a really good gateway into meditation visualization too. So a lot of the ways that you work with your future self are very much like working with deities or other guides, and you can essentially treat this the same way. And it's just kind of another spirit type or deity or being, any type of thing that you like to work with. This is just another one of those in your arsenal. Um, One other thing that you could do, and I would only do this if you uh, felt like you needed to heal yourself, is to build an altar to your future self. So if you, for instance, if you're like feeling really bad about yourself and your self-worth, your ego is really depleted, this could be a way for you to like honor yourself and actually bring more energy to lift that up. So if you're like offering something to yourself, you're prioritizing yourself, you can put things on your altar that you really want and care about and that motivate you. And this can be an absolutely beautiful practice to build yourself up. The caveat to that is if you already have maybe an inflated ego. I'm so sorry, my dogs are, they're just gonna bark till they stop. Stop it. Stop. I was hoping they'd be quiet, but so if you already have like you have a strong self-worth, maybe even an overinflated ego, this probably is not a good idea. And of course, if you have that, you probably don't think you do. That's how these things work. But just be mindful of like how you feel about yourself. Like, do you have a lot of negative thoughts about yourself? Like, this could be a really good way to build that up. So I just wanted to put that little like precaution aspect in there, because I do think it is a really, really beautiful practice to like help you feel good and to help you out of a difficult place. All right. Well, those are kind of the main notes that I have. So I will ask another question. And the question is, what do you think of this concept? Um, and are you going to try any of these methods? Did any of them jump out to you? And of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat as well, and we can chat about them. I'll pull my comments up. But overall, I mean, I really encourage you to explore this and to really go beyond this current life, like beyond linear time. Um, Being able to explore your future life, like almost as if you were exploring your past life right now. Like envision you doing a past life in this moment and looking at a future or looking at the past, right? And you're like, wow, this past life is affecting me because of XYZ. Here's all the things, like all the karma, all the baggage, like all the stuff that I carried into my current life. And you can actually heal your future lifeline or your future lives right now by tapping into that and learning how to be able to connect with your future self. Your future self may start asking for things that they need you to do now so that you can help them and you help yourself basically in like future timelines. And if you like this concept, I mean, you can actually bring in the past, the current, and the future all together with every single one of the practices that I mentioned, and start like really weaving these things together in your life. It is super powerful and super complicated, but really just exploring the concept at the basic level of like, who is your future self? Like, how do you connect? And it will just keep going from there. Let me pull up the comments. And I'm really excited to hear what you all think about this whole concept. Okay, sound alive. It's always hard to like get back on my phone here. All right, so Atina jumped all. Facebook's very glitchy for me here. So Haley shared that she likes the idea, so I'm glad to hear that. And Natasha mentions that the mirror made her think of the movie Twilight. Yeah, I could see that. And I'm right there with you. And Jenny mentioned that she wants to look into the self-altar. I think it's really great if you are really needing to build yourself up. It's a really cool thing to do. And Atina, I mentioned that she thinks my dogs want to help. I'm not sure that they do. I feel like they've been really bad today. So they have their own self-interests at heart here. And Rosalind wants to try the journal and the tarot method. Haley mentions the concept of working with your future self is really cool, and that it could be a great tool to have. Yeah, it is a really cool concept, one that was open to me a few years ago, and definitely one I've dived into and had a lot of success with. And the journaling and writing letters I think is really cool. Natasha is wanting to try the oracle and to look up aspecting, but not in the mirror. Yeah, I think the aspecting with the mirror is probably not the easiest thing to do. I don't think I would want to try that myself, but separately, could be really cool. And Bella Swan is stuck in her head, so very fun. And Natasha also said it would be cool if your future self would tell you how to get to there. And I think that's definitely something that your future self would tell you, what the steps are, developing that relationship, like learning how to connect there. I think that everyone's future self is like trying to communicate things like that. So personally feel that's one of the main messages like within the Hermit card, and I think we all have that connection that we can tap into. And Jenny mentioned that her future self would get more clearing because they're moving soon and letting go of past issues. Yeah, I mean, this could be a really powerful time to do that and see if there's like any additional things that you can really let go of and things, and maybe your future self would provide, be able to like provide you more because you've made space for that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there to like do that work and then amplify it too. All right. Well, that is all that I have for today. So it went pretty quick, but I really hope that you enjoy this concept. There's not a lot that I can really share like past this. I think it really is just a matter of like how you work and how you connect with yourself, right? And then just building it up from there. But it is a very cool practice. It can go in a lot of directions. Sometimes it makes me think of like the Matrix and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of sci-fi kind of on these concepts, but I think really like centering it within your craft and doing the techniques that um, you do best would be the best way to do this. Whatever your best skills are, those are your best skills. So your future self has those best skills too, and really diving in and developing in those areas to get the connection. Um, I have been able to tap into past lives like as my future self now and as my future self letting me know things that I need now, and also doing things that I need for my future. So again, it's taken a lot of work to get there. It's not like an overnight thing, but I think it's very worthwhile to get that kind of insight. And it feels different to me than it does when I'm working with my guides. So it's same as like if you work with deities, like how one deity shows up and talks to you versus another. And same thing with like your future self connecting to you versus like a different guide that you have. A few more comments came in. So I'm glad that you all enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, you can always drop them in the chat. And of course, for anybody watching the replay, I encourage you to add your comments and your questions, and I'll be sure to get back to you on those as well. And I hope you have a great night. Bye.